If there's one thing that the wars in Israel and Ukraine are teaching us, is that you really do have to build your key weapons yourself. It is just too dangerous to hope that other countries will keep sending you the weapons that you want when you most need them. I mean, Ukraine faces, well, just a catastrophe if Donald Trump is elected president and says no to more weapons for Ukraine, as is threatened. I don't know, maybe he'll change his mind. Israel, that's frantically building its own weapons now, with more countries like Australia, to our shame, saying, no, we will not send them or sell them any weapons. One weapons manufacturer in Australia has been warning us for years to build up our own defence industry, but hasn't been getting that far, not with this government, maybe not with past governments. That company is DefendTex. It's based in Dandenong, Victoria, and it builds all sorts of weapons, much of it for export, including precision-guided weapons, missile defence, robotic weapons, platforms, and more. Its head is Travis Reedy. Travis, thank you so much for your time. What is the problem that you see?
Well, simply put, Australia has both the advantage and disadvantage of being an island. The advantage being that gives us an air-sea gap, which allows us to defend ourselves. But it also means it's very difficult for our allies to be able to resupply us in times of need. So the assumption that the advanced weapons that we currently use will be able to be resupplied by the Americans and our European allies in a time of war, where the party we're potentially in conflict with sits directly between us and that resupply route, creates a complex environment, and it's not assured that those weapons can be resupplied, not on day 1 or day 2, but on week 6, week 8, week 10 of the conflict. We need to be able to continually resupply. And the best way to do that is to be able to manufacture those weapons here in Australia.
Well, that makes so much sense, because I've often said China will not invade us. They just need to choke off our shipping lanes. We'll be out of petrol in a few weeks. No worries. And then now you say weapons as well. What have you tried to do about this?
So the challenge here is to develop the industrial base that's required and to gain the knowledge and experience that's needed to build these complex weapons. And again, there's two schools of thought. We can either license those designs from the US, which is our key supplier of ammunition, or we can develop our own completely sovereign equivalents that we can use. Now, my preference obviously is to have complete sovereign control. Your particular company, have you tried anything? Absolutely. So we've been building asymmetric warfare capabilities, which is the many and the cheap against the few and the expensive. So we've been designing, developing and manufacturing different types of novel munitions, loitering munitions, drones, those kind of things from early on for the last 10 years. And as that process has expanded and as the nature of war has changed, we continue to evolve to try to provide the most relevant things to what comes next. And that's now guided weapons and missiles is one of the key aspects of modern battle.
Well, don't forget ammunition. I mean, you saw what happened to Ukraine when it actually ran out of ammunition, let alone the platforms for them. They were down to the 10 tanks. I mean, for every, I can't remember the ratio, of something like for every 6 missiles that or rockets that Russia fired at them, they could only fire 1 back, something like that. What reaction are you getting from government?
So it's a complex problem. So the government has stood up GWEO, which is the Guided Weapons and Explosive Ordnance Enterprise, which is tasked with developing and maintaining these weapon systems in Australia. We've been petitioning into this organisation for some time to start off that process of developing a completely indigenous weapon system. And what we have here is a conflict of priority. Government's current priority is to maintain the current weapons that we have, and that's understandable. We've invested billions of dollars in the advanced weapons that the ADF currently use, and we need to ensure that we can continue to maintain those over their operational lifespan. So the challenge for me is to convince the powers that be that not only do we need to maintain those weapons, but we need to develop new and completely Australian sovereign capability. And there's funding that's allocated towards those efforts. And we're trying to bring that funding forward to assist us in meeting that goal. Because ultimately, we go to war with the military that we have today, not the one that we aspire to have, in 2 or 3 years' time. So it's imperative that we start this development activity today so that we're ready whenever that may eventuate, and hopefully it doesn't.
What sort of things are you talking about? I mean, I would have thought drones, our lack of investment in drones for so long is just unbelievable. When you see the real battlefield changes in Ukraine, what else are you looking at?
Yeah, I mean, drones are really interesting, but they're also problematic. If we look at the potential conflict that we foresee arising in our region, it's all about Taiwan. And the issue with Taiwan is that's where most of our semiconductors come from. And unfortunately, drones are fully semiconductors. And then the question then has to be raised, if Taiwan disappears, or specifically TSMC, the semiconductor manufacturer, will we even have the supply chain that we need to be able to develop and manufacture drones in the quantity that are required, like you're seeing in Ukraine now? They primarily are coming out of Chinese components at the moment. So you have to wonder, what capability will industry have as a whole should we lose that key fundamental input to the capability that we need to build drones?
Oh, Travis Reedy, you are, I thought drones might be our salvation. You just pulled me up short right there. Look,
well,
it's absolute, you make absolute sense.
So the counterpoint to that...
Yeah.
Sorry, I was going to say that the counterpoint to that is, what can we manufacture here in Australia that doesn't require a reliance on a supply chain outside of Australia? And the answer is, honestly, rockets. The difference between a rocket and a missile is guidance. So you have unguided missiles, we call them rockets, and ones that can accurately determine their point of impact is a missile. And a rocket really just consists of a metal tube and some chemicals which are amply found here in Australia. So we have the ability to manufacture those at scale without having to worry about China or Taiwan or any of those other supply chains. We just need to build up that capability.
That is very interesting. Well, if Hamas in Gaza can build lots of rockets, I don't understand why we can't. Travis Reedy, thank you so much indeed for your time.